Hello and welcome back to the Radio Wrestlecast. As always, I'm your host Ryan. Today I'm joined by my lovely doppelganger Ryan.
Hello.
And Brett.
Hello.
You not ready for that one, Brett? Prepared?
No, that was good.
All right. Well, today we're talking about AEW Revolution 2024, also known as Sting's last match.
Mm-hmm.
The big event for this, and AEW really wants you to know that this is the best pay-per-view of the year, and it's only March. They really want you to know that, so we got to throw that in there. Anything we want to get into before we start this? I want to save the Sting discussion for when we get to that match, because I think that's going to be a big one. So anything related to that match, we'll hold off on. But in general...
We can lump the Bucks into that discussion also, because I know we got a bunch of stuff to say about that.
There's nothing really too big.
I'd like to do a temperature check on how AEW has been doing in the interim between pay-per-views, especially because we missed World's End for this podcast. We all watched it, but it being over the holidays made it hard to actually, not have all of us traveling at separate times. That just made it impossible to record an episode, but... since we haven't talked since before World's End on how AEW's TV side of things has been keeping up, I want to get a sort of a temperature check from everyone. How are people feeling about Dynamite, Collision, and Rampage right now?
Well, I'd say prior to Full Gear, I was I was getting a little bit. I still watched it and everything, but I was like, there was a definite something was going on with all the MJF stuff and leading up to the Devil reveal and stuff. But after Full Gear, when they announced the Continental Classic, I feel like that kind of honed everything back into the things that I've loved AEW for. And not only that, they've been focusing a lot more on their stories that I feel like are pretty good, pretty important.
I think Samoa Joe bringing back rankings as a concept was a really, really good one. Yep. A good idea.
Yeah, I feel like they just pretty much since World's End and like leading up to the build to World's End, they've kind of refocused on everything.
And since we didn't talk about World's End, I want to just quickly say what were people's feelings on World's End? At least for me, I think it was very positive. I came out of World's End having a great time.
It was really good.
It was all right. So
so fun.
Looking back on it, right? That big Continental Classic tag match they had was really fun. And then just kind of the rest of it just kind of felt weird up until the last three matches. Miro beat Andrade because they had that storyline, and it was Andrade
basically.
Andrade was leaving the company, so that was really weird. Tony Storm and Rio had a good match. I will touch on it later, but I feel like I will touch on Tony more later. It was originally going to be Swerve and Keith Lee, but then Keith Lee had to get pulled from the match last minute because of injury, and then it was Dustin, which was a good match, but it was still really weird.
It's a weird setup for a match when there was a whole feud behind it, and then all of a sudden
the whole stuff with Chris Jericho also.
That
happened. I really thought the Julia Hart and Abaddon was only okay, but then, as I said, the last stretch, right? Adam and Christian, awesome, really great no DQ match. Eddie and Mox was amazing, and MJF, when losing it to Joe, I thought that was awesome. So but that's the thing. Compared to this show, is I thought that was awesome. We'll get into it, but I felt like it was still positive going out of World's End. But compared to Revolution, I think there's no comparison between the two.
I can agree with that. Agree with that.
Yeah, World's End definitely, I think, felt a little bit more of a fillery thing just because of the weird schedule where they started doing a pay-per-view every month and a half or so. Which I'm glad they continue it. They gave us a break in between World's End and Revolution. Let's jump into Revolution.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the pre-show first, because the pre-show is the Easy stuff to get out of the way. We only had 2 matches this time, though both were, I would say, pretty solid. I think there are the generic pre-show issues of AEW is just never really nailed in what they should do on the pre-show in a consistent fashion, like how seriously they take it. So first of all, our first pre-show match, Bang Bang Scissor Gang, which is maybe my favorite name of a group ever. Which is Max Caster, Anthony Bowens, Billy Gunn, Austin Gunn, Colton Gunn, and Jay White, alongside, or not alongside, facing Jeff Jarrett, Satnam Singh, Jay Lethal, Willie Mack, and Private Party. And I think this was a fun match. It was not anything too special, I would say.
I'll say that this is the stuff that I remember from the match, because I was a little bit busy while watching it. They've been continuing with Max Caster messing up his raps.
Yeah, it's a work now, confirmed.
That is a work, and sometimes it seems like Jay causes it or he just messes it up. I think just really weird to see Jay White as a face, as much as like he does a kind of good job at it. I just always associate him with him being the worst person alive. And it was there's nothing too, but that's the thing, like, nothing too bad I could say about the match. Everything looked fine from what I remember, but I do have to say the spot of this match was Jeff Jarrett doing the Fargo strut in the middle of the ring with Singh, Lethal, Willie Mack, Isaiah Cassidy, Mark Quinn, and Sanjay Dutt all on the outside doing it at the same time.
Yeah. really
not gonna get any argument from me there.
But yeah, it's kind of just a weird thing. It's interesting. I definitely would have thought that a Bang Bang Scissor Gang would have either dissolved or been feuding with each other by now. I did not expect them to
last this long.
Because the reason they came to be about was because of the Undisputed Kingdom. Since they both took both of them out leading up to the match, the reveal at the end of World's End, and then they just kind of didn't go after them anymore, and they just formed together, and now they're both 6-man championships. And I thought they would have led to them fighting to see who's the better of the two, but no, they're all faces.
Yeah, I'm convinced we'll get there eventually.
Yeah, it's definitely heading towards that direction, but it is strange and not really, at least in my opinion, not really the worst way. It's certainly still weird that they're still together, but it's funny, so they can. I'm glad that it was like this because it was funny.
It was so weird having Jay White cut a promo after the match, and like, Greensboro is my favorite city, and it's like, what? Like, no,
face promo.
Like Jay White would never say that.
Yeah, which I like. I feel like you could tell it's forced, because even like on the promos, like on TV or whatever, they're like slightly bickering with each other about like what to say and like how positive they're being and shit like that.
And like, that's the thing, like, I'm complaining about it, but like, he's been getting good reactions too, which is just so weird. Like, as a fan, it's like I think
people are just excited to see Jay White in any context, that it doesn't. It's kind of like how MJF can just show up and get cheers whenever he wanted to get cheers, even when he was a heel. If he would say certain things, he would get cheered because he knows how to work a crowd. People cared about him.
I think, I guess the thing is, I'm just like still thinking back to when he was feuding with MJF, and like he was like just kind of like not getting even like a lot of like boos during then either. Like, just somehow now, like, they love the guy as a face.
I wonder if he just wasn't well established enough outside of people knowing him from Japan. So
that could be.
That could be. Yeah.
All right. Moving on from this, it wasn't crazy. Bang Bang Scissor Gang won. Moving on to, I want to talk less about the match for this one, because I don't think the match actually matters. I think what matters is Julia Hart's entrance in this one, which is Chris Statlander, Willow Nightingale versus the team of Julia Hart and Sky Blue. Man, I was talking with Brett about this earlier, and Julia Hart's like entrance here, I think, stole the show more than most of the ones in the pay-per-view.
It was the most special entrance out of most of them until the end.
One of the only ones with actual pyro and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Julia Hart's gimmick is really strong, and I'm excited to see where it gets taken.
Yeah, I'm glad to see her wrestle again because apparently, like, she hasn't been wrestling a lot on the TV.
She was injured for a while, I believe.
Yeah, so it's good to see her again. I still don't know what they're doing with Chris and Willow, with Stokely managing them,
especially because they keep playing up the like they've had tension in the past part, but it doesn't really seem to be doing anything.
Yeah, I don't know what exactly is going to happen with them, but I mean, I like seeing them wrestle. I do think at times you could tell this was Julia's first match back after being hurt, just because there's some like mistimed spots with her, and when Willow was in the ring, some weird stuff happened. But Sky Blue's been getting a lot better. Like she felt like on point with everything. Yeah. Chris is always amazing. So yeah, it's Stokely's really funny on commentary.
Always.
Yeah. It was I thought it was good. Willow was the one who picked up the pin on Sky, right? So do you think she's going to be going after the TBS title? Probably.
I think that's a pretty fair assumption, especially because it's kind of been a thing she's wanted to go after before, at least in character. I would not be surprised if that's where this ends up.
You think that happens at Big Business or what? Because I guess
I don't think it happens at Big Business.
Because I was gonna say, in relation to TV, Serena Deeb has been wrestling a lot on Collision, and her match has been great. And she's been calling out someone for Big Business, which is Mercedes. But yeah, I can't wait. It's gonna be good. But I was also thinking, like, maybe if Willow does win the TBS title off of Julia, they could rerun Mercedes and Willow, because when they made the New Japan Strong Women's Championship, the inaugural match was Mercedes and Willow, and that's when Mercedes got hurt.
I think having a title on that match makes it harder to book rather than letting it just happen. Especially because presumably I don't think Willow would be pinned to win that match.
No.
Certainly not.
And that would be a weird way to start Mercedes Moné in AEW. It is like just forcing a loss onto a face person that people really like. Especially if the title had just been turned over. I don't necessarily see that working the way that AEW would want that to. But I definitely see that happening at some point. But
it depends, I think, what they do with the Stokely stuff. I feel like you could spin some sort of way where, like, there's some screwy, he's trying to do some healy nonsense and it ends up screwing her over in the end that could lead to further development. But yeah, you definitely have to do something with it, and it shouldn't just be Willow losing immediately, which would kind of suck, because I like Willow.
Yeah, I would also rather see, I think Julia Hart needs to lose the title to someone impressive.
That's also
which
true.
I don't mean that as a negative to Willow, but I think there needs to be like more of a feud behind it. I think if the Willow and Julia Hart feud does proceed and it becomes a thing, then it could happen, but I don't think it just happens randomly.
Yeah.
All right. Any other thoughts on that match or the TNT title or the TBS whatever championship, the mid card women's championship?
No.
Yeah, not really.
All right. Moving on to our first match of the actual show. Although we should mention Pac's back. That was a 0 hour thing.
He almost died. Apparently. I looked up what he meant when he said there. What was the? He said something. He knocked his
clogs. Yeah.
I looked it up, and it's pretty much our equivalent of kicking the bucket. So apparently he was really sick. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad he's coming back.
Glad to see him back. Yeah. I mean, maybe he was just like hamming it up or something, but like I feel like he wouldn't say something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe we'll learn more, I suppose. Like, there's only one way to find out, and that's to wait. But
yeah,
I'm very glad he's back, because he's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's such a good wrestler that I'm very excited to see what he does when he's back. Okay, so our actual match card, our first match of the actual show, is Daniel Garcia and Christian Cage for the AEW TNT Championship.
What a wacky first match! I feel like
I feel like
the first.
AEW really likes to start with Christian Cage on pay-per-views.
Yeah.
Happens a lot.
I felt like out of everything that they had there, it was probably either that was probably the best one to start with. I mean, it was either that or like the later Mox FTR tag match. But
Yeah.
I felt like starting off something like that was good. Christian is facing Daniel Garcia here because leading up to this, it was Garcia versus Adam. Adam's still trying to get the title. He's been doing the Cope Open. And Garcia has just been, going off the Connor Classic, still getting better, and he's been winning a lot. And they had their match with each other. The patriarchy interrupted during it. They're gonna try to concerto Daniel Garcia. Adam helped them out, interrupted it, but ended up getting concertoed himself, and that's pretty much how Garcia got into this match. It was really good. Christian Cage obviously still the great heel. He's just working over Garcia the whole time, tricking him into thinking he's hurt, poking him in the eye.
Having Nick Wayne play interference.
And I mean, again, like Christians is really good at a lot of the smaller stuff to get people engaged into the match, and then Garcia has a really good fire when he's able to get his offense in. He does his dance, did the dance in the corner, after doing the mounted punches, which was awesome. And again, just like all the like counters he's able to do and stuff, into the ankle lock and to. I don't think he tried to put on the Dragon Slayer this match, or he couldn't. But yeah, I mean, he was really awesome here. I felt definitely the best that he has looked, continuing off of the Continental Classic, which I'm glad to see.
Yeah. His current run right now, I fully admit that when he first showed up, I wasn't really into him that much, especially because he tends to make some very funny faces when he's grimacing. And that led to me not being able to take him very seriously. But he's like he like his current run right now. He's firing on all cylinders. It's great. Like his actual wrestling itself is incredible, especially for his age and especially like his bodily condition that he was in not all that much longer ago when he like broke like a million bones in his legs or whatever or something, right?
Yeah.
I'm always impressed to see people come back from that like ever. And then like the stuff with like Daddy Magic and the kind of fallout of the JAS around him and how they kind of still care about him a little bit. That stuff's been handled very well as well. So I'm glad that he's getting like title shots at all.
Yeah.
Because capitalize on that shit now. He deserves it. He's really good.
Yeah, it reminds me of what a lot of people I think should have happened more with Ricky Starks, of someone in that
when he
like
first
solid
started.
mid-carder who's really good when they get going and just doesn't seem to get the shots that they need to go beyond that. So I'm glad Daniel Garcia is actually getting a lot of these chances and showing off.
Yeah, Cage ended up winning. Do you think that was the right move? Do you think Garcia should have won there? Because I know some people said that they think that he should have won, but I'm not. I'm not too sure on that.
I think it depends on where they take it. I would have been happy if Garcia did win, but I think Christian's run with the title has been one of the better TNT championship runs that we've had.
Yeah, for sure.
And it didn't feel like there was enough build up to this to have it taken off.
Mm-hmm.
But I could see this being the start of a build up.
Yeah. I'm of the mind that milk this Christian run as much as you possibly can because it's incredible. The patriarchy is such a good, it's like stupid evil faction. It's amazing. Just keep it going for as long as you can before it starts to show signs of being boring. And like I said, I like Daniel Garcia a lot, but I don't think now. I also wouldn't have been sad if he won, but I definitely would have been a little like, what are they gonna do with Christian now? What are they gonna do with Adam Copeland now, huh? Because I do kind of feel like Adam Copeland's got to be the guy to get it off of Christian. I feel like that's
it
got to
just makes
be
sense,
what
right?
we're leading towards. Yeah.
It's the obvious answer, but that doesn't mean it's the wrong one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts on this match? Sounds like a no, so we're going to move on
It's good.
to Eddie Kingston and Bryan Danielson with the gimmick that if Kingston wins, Danielson had to shake his hand.
Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you know it that having I just straight up two of the best guys in the world across the ring from each other, that you just have a fantastic match. And
I love
I don't know if you
that we got an exploder suplex pulled out.
Oh yeah. Those are always great. And I don't know if you have seen the post match interview, Ryan, but that is also worth watching because it is basically, to summarize that up, it's literally just Eddie and Danielson sitting in the locker room, just like sweating, bleeding, like crying, and Eddie's like, you know what? I'm really glad I got your respect, man. That means a lot. That's what I always wanted. And Danielson's just like, you know what? Yeah, you deserve it. And Danielson just goes on like a legitimately like woeful tirade about how Eddie Kingston was actually the better man this whole time because Danielson couldn't see that he did deserve his respect this whole time.
That's
and
incredible.
He starts like sobbing and shit. It's amazing. It's amazing, and it's like the match itself just perfectly ties into that. And I feel like the commentary especially did they did their job amazingly with this match in particular, because every single thing that Danielson did, they'd be like, hey, yeah, if he thought that Eddie wasn't a threat, why is he doing this right now? If he's focusing on that risk so much, he must be acknowledging and therefore respecting that that spinning back fist must be really friggin' dangerous.
Yeah, because Eddie's the only person who makes it look good. Like
exactly. But yeah, very, very good.
Yeah, I mean, over the whole 3 matches, because that was like the whole thing, right? It was like the first match he did, he just went in, he not prepared, and he knew he was going to beat him up, and he did. And then it was like, yeah, he's a bum. And then when it got to the time for the second one, he was thinking the same thing, but obviously, Eddie turned it up. It was fired up, and Eddie shocked him, and that was the whole thing. Like leading up to like that won't never happen again. He's still a bum. It was a fluke. It was a fluke. He wouldn't beat me. So now that was the whole thing. Is now even when Danielson did take it seriously and prepared, trying to counter his strikes by focusing on that, the right arm of his, the wrist, the hand, and everything, he still wasn't able to.
Yeah, and, I think that's Eddie's strength as a wrestler, is that sort of people underestimate him both in story and I think in the audience. If they haven't seen Kingston before, will be like, oh, who's this guy? Like, who's this this loser walking up here? Is he going to be the jobber? Because I distinctly remember when I was watching World's End, I was with my dad over the holidays, and he was watching. He's like, "Oh, who's this guy? Like, well, he looks like he doesn't belong here." And then he was impressed over the course of the match just because of how crazy Kingston actually ends up being whenever he shows up.
Yeah.
And how much fun he is to watch wrestle. I think he does a great job of, like, especially playing up in this match, of Bryan Danielson does a great job of looking frustrated.
Yes.
And
his
Kingston
facial
drives
acting
him
is so
up
good.
the wall. And it's perfect. I think that is like a really underappreciated thing about both of these guys, is their ability to do facial emotion while all the crazy wrestling stuff is going on. It's like Moxley also does it phenomenally. But yeah, they do such a great job with that, and they end up telling a really good story from all the matches they do. So
Yeah, that's why I started saying that I think they're two of the best. I know Eddie doesn't necessarily have the most complicated moveset, but to make a simple moveset that like emotionally effective definitely takes some sort of special shit that he's doing that not a lot of other people know how to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also wonder going forward from here. Now we've had Mox on Eddie's side this whole time because they're buddies, but now we also have Danielson on Eddie's side. Now he also respects him. Claudio presumably still hates the man's gut, and that is a deep rooted hatred. So I wonder if eventually he's going to be able to get all the Blackpool Combat Club on his side or not.
yeah, that would be cool if that's a storyline they start to go towards. And we should mention Kingston won, and
Yes.
Danielson at first did the fake out handshake, but then actually shook his hand.
Yeah,
and then went further and like raised his arm for the victory lap and everything, and all the respect happened.
He was gonna raise his bad arm initially though, and Eddie Kingston pointed to his other arm to raise it.
Yeah,
yeah, I saw that too.
It's very funny. Yeah, I think they did a great job during this match, and I'm always excited to see these two wrestle.
Where do you think Kingston goes from there?
I think a Claudio plot seems like the way to go.
I don't
like it.
I don't agree with that. I feel like Claudio, especially with some of the, we'll get to it later, but with some of the news out of tonight, I feel like Claudio and Mox are earmarked for something else.
Yeah,
I
think
can't do
if
both of those at the same time.
Didn't know that, I would have pinned Eddie over Mox for a thing. Knowing that now, I have a feeling Eddie maybe takes the back burner for a little bit, just because this is like a huge win. I don't know how he follows this up in a way that is super meaningful, outside of just doing a sequence of like continental championship defenses and whatnot.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends, because they did say he's going to have to defend it at Supercard of Honor, which is usually that runs the same week as weekend as Mania, so that comes up before the next AEW pay-per-view. I
wonder if they pull someone crazy out for that. So I would be down for it, because I think after this he doesn't need the championship anymore. So I wouldn't be surprised if he loses it without a ton of build-up.
I think either a Pac or Takeshita would be pretty cool.
Yeah,
I like that a lot, actually. Yeah.
And I would love to see Eddie and Pac wrestle.
Because Pac had the one match against Claudio already for the Ring of Honor World Championship after Blood and Guts this last year. So they definitely could just slot something in like that again.
I would like that a lot.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to our next match, which is the 8-man scramble. What a fun!
All right,
R.I.P. Meat Madness.
What a fun match concept that didn't.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the next match: Roderick Strong and Orange Cassidy.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. So this does say who was in this one. It was Wardlow, Jericho, Hobbs, Lance Archer, Hook, Brian Cage, Magnus, and Dante Martin. So aggressively, slightly below fine, like
serving a lot of mid here.
Yeah, this was the middest match of the pay-per-view, probably.
They start off. They try to do the remnants of the Meat Madness match, because I assume Lance was always going to be part of it. Obviously, yes, they said so, but with Cage also there, Hobbs, Wardlow, so they do a little thing at the start, and then everyone else kind of after that evolved into very, very choreographed spots that took them way too long to do.
Yeah. This match is, I think, one of the more is a lot of the times in these big multi-man matches, you have that problem of things just people are in their corners doing spots very slowly without paying attention to what else is happening. It's a huge problem. Even like WWE has the same issue with any of their big Royal Rumble style matches. But yeah, I think this was not great.
Yeah, I mean, there's some spot like Dante Martin always he did mess up a little bit on one of his dives, but I think Brett said the last night, even if he does mess up, like you can't fault him because like all the stuff he does is just so cool.
Yeah, he does a
and
great job of
usually-
recovering if he does.
Exactly.
So like that's cool. I've been a big fan of all the CML wrestlers that have been coming over, especially Hechicero. His match against Danielson he had on Collision was great. All the matches that they've been having are awesome. I can't wait to see the Blackpool Combat Club versus Sobrano, Blue Panther, and the rest of the guys coming up at the CML show. So Magnus, this is relatively the first time I saw Magnus since he qualified by beating Seidel on Rampage. I thought he looked awesome. I thought a lot of the stuff they just do are super crisp. It's cool that they're still doing Hook and Brian Cage stuff. Just they've been building up on that, especially on the TV. Jericho is there. And yeah, Wardlow's been cutting a lot of promos recently, saying like how like felt like how he's beating all these people. He's beating Max, he's beating Joe. Like it's his time. So I mean, I guess it out of all of them, it makes sense for him being the one to win. I just wish the match was better. I don't know.
Yeah. It's like it definitely it ended better than it started because it took them a while to like get the ball rolling, but by the end it they kind of all got up to each other's speed. But like usually for these matches where it's really clear where like outside of kayfabe something happens and they gotta throw something together really fast. Usually they're still pretty good. Like usually
I use
the
Dustin Rhodes match from World's End is a good example of replacing Keith Lee.
Yeah,
that match was still
wasn't
really solid. It wasn't incredible, but
you find like a solid guy who's just going to kind of be reliable and good for the most part, no matter what. And you're able to have a good match anyway. But I wonder if there's just too many variables for this.
I think there's too many variables, and I feel like a lot of the people that they did choose aren't someone who I would normally depend on. Like, you know what I like?
Yeah,
Hobbs is still relatively new. Wardlow has always seemed to have been paired better with someone who's a little bit more he can work off of.
Yeah.
Wardlow's a great wall, and then
same with
instead
Hobbs,
he's been put into matches
Archer.
Against 4 other walls.
Yeah. Jericho really doesn't have it anymore. Personal opinions aside, I think he's just you kind of can't depend on him like you used to be able to have just like a good match.
He's slowed down a lot.
Yeah, Hook's still really new. It depends on the partner. Cage can, but I mean, you're throwing Cage in there with 6 other people. And
I think that's the core of the problem. Is most of these guys are much better in singles matches.
Exactly. Magnus completely just was part of there. Just could he have a good match? Yeah, probably. But I wouldn't know, and a lot of the audience wouldn't know. And same with Dante Martin. Like a lot of these people were just really new, and probably to get to since it takes 2 to tango, they would have to have the proper partner. And like that's the thing is Cage is someone who would be a good partner, but again, like if these were all singles matches, like that could work, but like I was way all too over the place. They kind of have like a ladder. I feel like having this be a ladder match probably would have given an edge.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know if you want to put Dante Martin in another ladder match after he broke his.
For what happened last time.
Yeah. So yeah, it is what it is. They kind of these matches are kind of like this, especially the scrambles in particular. Like these were like especially staples and GCW cards, like independents. They're better just like having it be like the first match on the show, and then you just
the warm up.
Yeah.
Like this to me almost felt like more of a pre-show match than the Willow
Tag.
and
I would have switched
Sky
them.
Blue and
Yeah.
whatnot match.
I
I would
agree.
have swapped those.
Totally.
Yeah, but you can't have Jericho in the pre-show.
That's great though if you had to be the last pre-show match because people will get pumped up to the Judas theme, and then you have everyone
Yeah.
ready and fired up for your actual start of the show. Yeah. All right. Moving on from that match to a much better match, I would say. The Orange Cassidy
was
versus
way
Roderick
better.
Strong
It was.
international champion match.
Yep.
Playing up the idea that Orange Cassidy's had a rough run recently, and he also doesn't want his friends getting hurt, so he's alone in the ring.
Mhm. And he got destroyed.
Yep.
Yeah, my man got taken
He
apart.
got ripped apart by Mr. Strong. That was awesome.
And yeah, I
Like,
gotta
that
give
must-
props to Roderick Strong here because I don't think he's shown this strong in anything else he's done in a
Not
long
in AW.
time. Yeah, not
Not
in
in
AW.
AW.
I watched him a
Dude,
ton in
but-
NXT days, but I think this convinced me that I should pay attention to Roderick Strong, not
Exactly.
to see him as part of Undisputed Kingdom.
Dude, I love Roderick. He's always been my like going back even before NXT when he was in older Ring of Honor stuff. He's just crazy. Him and Matt Sydal used to be insane together, and just Brett knows how much I'm a mark for Mr. Strong, and it's crazy to think about too, considering when he got into the company, like one of his first matches was against Jericho, and he won that.
I
'Cause
didn't
that was the
remember
whole-
that.
That was
Yeah.
like the whole thing with the Adam Cole and Chris Jericho feud, and he won that match, and then just nothing really
Got
happened.
kind of sidelined for a year.
Kind of got sidelined for the rest of the time just because just the whole stuff with like, I mean, because he was an auxiliary character within the MJF, and
Yeah.
and that, like, I mean, that's kind of like the thing, though, right? Like that kind of just that whole time with AEW, like, just kind of felt weird, even with the focus on that, and that's what, like, now that Undisputed Kingdom is still a really weird group, I want to say,
Yeah.
Mhm.
but I mean, I feel like the people within it have definitely been showing up, like
For sure.
Yeah, and I think the fact that
Ta-
Adam Cole,
especially Taven, because
Yeah.
yes,
Taven's match he had against Orange Cassidy for Valentine's Day, where he went head first through a table, was crazy.
Yeah, that literally, I had like no interest in him at all before that, and I feel like most people did not. And then after that match, I'm like, yep, okay, never mind. He's somebody to actually give a shit about and pay attention to now. It's just, and I think because I mean going into this match, at least I figured that this is about time for Orange to lose. This is his second great run with this belt. Even though he technically wasn't supposed to have it, they turned it into a great run where he was able to
maybe the best
beat Mox.
pivot that AEW's done for a title that shouldn't have
Yeah.
been on that person at that time. Like,
Because those happen pretty often, unfortunately. But it's like, okay, yeah, it's got to end eventually, and it makes sense for it to be now. Because also, like I was about to say, the Undisputed Kingdom, they need something. They need something
Yeah.
to prove tangibly that they are a
give them some
threat.
legitimacy.
They
Yeah,
have the
and
Ring of
now-
Honor. They have the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championships, though, Brett.
Those championships
They
that get touted on TV all the time but don't mean anything.
they get defended like twice a year. It's crazy. But I like even beyond that, because we mentioned before when we first started talking about this match, Orange got like destroyed. Not because Orange sucks or because Roderick Strong is even like that much better than him. It's just Roderick Strong just knew exactly what to do, and just conveniently Orange's lower back is injured. Well, that's just exactly what my entire moveset revolves around hurting even more.
Yeah.
Back
So,
breaker. Back
yeah,
breaker.
like backbreaker, the end of heartache, the stronghold, all that shit targeting the same area, and Orange sells it so friggin' good. And this is like, because I've seen clips before of Roderick Strong's older matches in some like early 2000s stuff, and he just goes crazy, like basically like he did last night, where he's just like throwing his entire body into moves, like completely ragdolling people with the backbreakers, just again over and over, because that's just what he does. Uh, and like finally, it's good to see him be able to do that, because I don't think his run in AEW's been like bad. It's just kind of been like there hasn't been much like
To go off
fire
of.
behind it. Yeah, but like now, like okay, yeah, that is a real Roderick Strong match. That's why my friend Ryan likes him so much. I see it now. This is good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I'm excited to see where they take this. I think Adam Cole being injured for a while and kind of working from the backside has actually helped a lot of the people that Adam Cole works with.
For sure, yeah, actually I agree.
Because I actually love Adam Cole. I think he's a great wrestler, but I think he's whenever he's wrestling in a thing, he's the focus. And so it's nice that for a little while we've been able to pull back and kind of see these tertiary people around him get to shine themselves and not necessarily just be the Adam Cole show.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that just comes from him being the mouthpiece of Undisputed Era back in NXT. But yeah, I was really happy with this match. Kyle O'Reilly showed up at the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's
Big
back.
pop.
He looks like a homeless person. It was great.
I know, yeah, my man looks so tired.
He looks
But,
so
like,
disheveled, and it was perfect.
it is worth pointing out, like people were just straight up evilly making fun of this man. You need to understand that he was told that he might not ever even like walk normally again after like whatever happened, that he was out for so long, and the fact that he like was moving around just fine, and he just had like his like diabetes thing on his shoulder, like that's a miracle. And it seems like he's going to be doing stuff like for wrestling again, which is just crazy. Like I mentioned that earlier with the like, I mean, Guy Garcia's injuries happened like forever ago by this point, but like this is a recent thing, and it was super serious, and to see anybody bounce back from that is like crazy. And also Kyle O'Reilly's good, so I'm glad that he's back. And that
Yeah,
they're doing
I
stuff
think
with
he's
him.
also a great wrestler.
Yeah.
I hope we get to see him back in ring. If not, I think he's also a potentially very good manager figure.
I think
That's true.
the reports are that he is coming back to wrestle, which is
Good.
Yeah, so I
good.
feel like it's a safe bet. But either way, I'm happy he's back.
Yeah. You want to hear the crazy thing about it? Kyle O'Reilly's last match that he did have was before all the Punk drama even happened.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
Well over
Oh
a
my
year ago.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a #1 contendership match against Mox that he lost.
It was a
Which
good
is
match,
crazy.
too, wasn't it?
I remember it
Yeah.
being pretty good off the top of my
Yeah.
head.
All right.
They were using him a lot too, because like he beat Darby at Double or Nothing. Like that was the thing.
Yeah,
Like,
that's right.
they were just starting to like really cook with him too. So yeah.
I also do just want to shout out Orange for doing a really good job of like appearing injured. It's a thing a lot of wrestlers don't get right, and I think Orange Cassidy did a great job of having that play into the match.
He's super good at that.
All right. Moving on to our next match, FTR versus Jon Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli.
Oh boy.
Ugh.
It was a good. It took a little bit. It took a little bit to get going for this one. It definitely was a slow burn at the start, but that was all right because the crowd was really into it the whole time. You know, they were going crazy because both of them are FTR near the North Carolina area, and it's Jon Moxley and Claudio. So
everybody's gonna cheer for them no matter what.
yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was awesome. You know, I think it's really interesting to see the emergence of Claudio and Mox, because like that's the thing, they've always been like good tag guys too. Like Claudio with Sheamus and Claudio with Chris Hero back in the day. The Mox obviously with Rollins and Roman and everything else that he's done. So it's interesting to see them tag together like this. And it feels like it just kind of makes sense for them to where they're going to be. And like I felt like this was really just showing them, like obviously, yeah, like it's Mox and Claudio, they're great, but like they can also just like they're a good tag team. And I felt like that's what like FTR's job was, to show that like they were even like not able to keep up with them at this time, because like this has had like a counter for everything. And like some of the tag moves that they did together, like the Doomsday Device with Claudio jumping up from the middle rope, then to the top, and then doing the European uppercut was crazy.
Yeah, that was
then,
sick.
Super smooth.
Yeah, doing the the giant swing to the drop kick was also sick. So yeah, and it does, as I said earlier, it does kind of feel like this is what is they're kind of earmarking Mox and Claudio to be right now. I feel like that's the best, considering it feels like for the singles stuff, it's going to be really crowded with some of these people that they're going to be using now. I feel like I feel like having them in the tag for a little bit is probably for the best.
Opens up some slots for other people in singles. Especially just because like Moxley is a presence whenever he's involved in like big singles division stuff. So having him pulled out for a little bit is probably a good thing. But yeah, I think these were very fun. This was a very fun match. I think FTR is always just, you're never gonna get a bad tag match out of them. And putting them next to Mox and Claudio, I think is just a very good pairing. So yeah, I think these guys played off of each other really well as like the slow bruisers that they tend to be.
This again, I was just gonna say I'm excited to see where this goes, because I like in the cards I see Eddie coming to terms with Claudio at some point in the cards in the future, but it does just make sense because again, commentary doing their job really put over the fact that they see Mox and Claudio as like a superstar tag team.
Yeah.
And with a convenient opening in the tag league in AEW to fill, they are probably headed somewhere very good.
Brett, I want to tell you my pipe dream that I want to see.
Yeah.
I want Eddie, Claudio, and Mox and Danielson, blood and guts on the same team versus someone. I want to see that.
Yeah.
So I would love to see whatever they come up with that, especially if it involves someone getting backstabbed.
Well, careful, because the monkey's paw might curl, and you might get Jericho on the other side. So careful what you wish for.
If they do a blood and guts this year, I wonder who it would be, because there's not really like a big faction that are going up against each other right now.
Yeah, they'll figure out something, especially because they have to. But they'll figure out something.
Yep. All right. Moving on from this match to our women's match of the card, Deonna Purrazzo and Toni Storm for the Women's World Championship. This is one I don't know a lot about. Deonna Purrazzo.
I think she's been doing stuff on Collision more than Dynamite. Right?
Yeah, before her AEW run, specifically.
Yeah, I think she was just killing it in Impact pretty much. She has been there for years, jumped over to here, and I think I feel like this has been the best built match for a women's title in like a very long time.
They
did have a lot of history to go off of each other. I just think the crowd likes Toni too much, and they don't really know how to feel about Deonna yet.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think Deanna maybe needed a little bit more of a push before this happened because the crowd was pretty quiet during this match. Part of
Yeah.
that is they put this in the killer slot. This is in
Yeah.
eighth
Imagine
match of
if
the
they had
card. It's
imagine if they had Osprey and Takeshita go on before then.
like I
God.
feel like this is the match that I would have put after the opener, just so they actually
Yeah.
have like an energized crowd. But it was also this is the shortest match in the card. A consistent problem with the women's matches is they're just given extremely tight time slots. Um, so yeah, I think this suffered from a lot of the issues that we brought up about the AEW women's division in the past. Of it just on a bad spot in the card, shortened and not a ton of actual push behind the challenger. Um, but yeah, I don't have any like actual problems with this match, but I think that is probably what led to the crowd being so disappointed.
Mhm. Yeah, I
Hmm.
think the match itself was pretty solid. I've like I mean we've said it before, I'm pretty sure, but Tony's current uh like just everything is impeccable. I think the
Yeah,
crowd really likes her a lot for a reason, and that's because her character's really funny and extremely consistent, and like every part of like the production with like the screen going black and white and a lower frame rate whenever she's on it for promos and stuff like that. Everybody really likes that character, and it shows. Um, and I like the way that she works like silly, stupid stuff in with Luther, and like it almost doesn't even feel like cheating because it's just so slapstick and stupid.
yeah.
But
It feels
it
like
is
it shouldn't be
cheating.
working, and it's almost the challenger's
Yeah.
fault for having it work. Uh,
Um. But yeah, I do agree that like because again I don't think this was bad at all, and there's conveniently a worse match on the card that we already went over for this to be better than. Uh, but yeah, I don't dislike Deanna Purrazzo, and she's pretty good. But I I don't know. There will be more interesting opponents in the future, and have been more interesting opponents in the
Yeah,
past.
I wonder if this
Is
is a
the
gimmick thing too. Of like we've talked before about how a lot of this is not a women's division only problem. It's a cross every promotion problem. Of a lot of sometimes challengers are just built up as their character is a challenger, right? Like they don't have anything beyond that.
Yeah,
And
their
I think
character's
the
supposed to be
virtuosa
threatening.
is not super strong. Like I think it's fine for most of the time, but you're going up against timeless Tony Storm, who's on a hot
Yeah.
streak, who people love. I think you have to have a strong gimmick going in just to even convince people that you should be worth rooting for.
hmm
Yeah,
Which Mercedes does, so that's good.
yeah. I don't think Mercedes needs it anymore. I think Mercedes could just show up and people would cheer
Yeah,
regardless.
exactly.
So I think Mercedes could literally walk onto the stage and do nothing, and people would cheer for 10 minutes. Um,
Probably. It's probably gonna be what happens, honestly.
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, the match was fine. I think the placement on the card was not great.
hmm
I think that's the thing too. I think people want to cheer Tony,
Yeah,
A lot, yeah.
but like she's a heel.
hmm
I mean, it
I,
reminds me a lot of like NXT era Adam Cole.
yeah. I also I want your guys' opinions on this. Do you think, like, due to her trying to work with this gimmick, do you think like she's changed the way she wrestled a lot, considering how she used to, like, even just like a year and a half ago, like when she was champion, when she was just kind of herself? Because it kind of feels like she
Uh,
wrestles completely different.
it does, and I would
I think her
argue,
pacing is very different.
yeah, the
Yeah.
pace overall, again, because she has more of like the wacky, sillier stuff to rely on. Uh, in my opinion, it's better because I feel like at least for me, she wasn't really all that interesting to watch.
Yeah.
Before, like she wasn't bad. I don't think she's ever been like bad. It's just kind of like you can only be like so solid before you're like, okay, well this other person's doing like flips and this other person is like a crazy high kicker or something, and well, what do? The hip attack? Okay. And now she's got a lot more interesting stuff going on. So I don't know where you were going with that, but I at least think it's an improvement for
Yeah.
me.
Mhm.
Okay. Moving on to our next match, and I think, excluding the obvious, this is my match of the night.
Yeah.
Will Ospreay versus Konosuke Takeshita. Man,
Yeah.
Yep.
Takeshita, I think everyone agrees, is one of the best up and comers we've had in a while. Calling him an up and comer is sort of disingenuous when he was a champion in DDT for a while, but an unknown factor, I would say, in the U.S. And
Yeah.
putting on a match like this with Will Ospreay, even when there's spots in this that I couldn't tell if they were slight botches or not, or if it was intentional, and I think that's good.
Mhm.
That's the Will Ospreay way.
Yeah, like I'm not entirely sure if everything here went as planned, but I think it worked out better if it didn't, right? So,
Yeah.
I didn't. My bingo card tonight did not have someone doing a Styles Clash on it, but I'm glad
No.
it happened.
Yeah. Like the whole, like, I don't, like, again, this just like Will Ospreay's always been this good, and like I'm glad that they went with someone like Takeshita, who's also incredible, as like his first really big just really big match that he's had as a member of the roster, and just shows again how great he was. Like there's so much, like their strikes, their just everything about it. I don't know. Like it was just incredible to see, incredible to witness. They're just so smooth with everything. They're able. It's yeah. Like especially like just like I felt like if anyone else that were to happen to with the because the brainbuster spot was obviously botched.
Yeah, that's the one I'm getting
Yeah.
at. That I think was
That was obvious because again, it's supposed to be based off of El Generico, Sami Zayn, since Takeshita's first ever wrestling opponent was El Generico. That's why he does the Blue Thunder Bomb and in his matches, and that brainbuster into the top ring was supposed to be turnbuckle is like Generico's old finisher, and that's what he's supposed to do. But clearly, he invented a new move there.
Yeah, genuinely.
And yeah, again, if it was anyone else, I don't think they would be able to bounce off of that or recover the way that they did mid, like the move going wrong. But I mean, that just kind of just shows how great both of them are. Honestly,
Yeah.
and, like I have no clue how like Osprey was able to continue after that.
yeah, especially with it.
Yeah.
Clearly, I think there has to have been a signal at some point that Ospreay was good to continue, because
Yeah.
Takeshita comes in and like back knees him to the neck while he's still on the ground. And
Yeah.
that's the type of move that like someone has to have. I think Takeshita knows that like that's a botch spot. You need to be careful afterwards, and then just going with it as playing up sort of the heel side of Takeshita, I think was really fun.
Yeah.
In a really good recovery for what otherwise could have turned out pretty poorly, but yeah, I mean these two are just excellent, and Ospreay is always super impressive. It's good to see him shine here in a match that isn't like an exhibition match.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There were a couple times where I was like, oh my god, Will Ospreay is dead on my screen right now, because like there's the earlier in the match, Takeshita hits him with a suplex that just plants like center frame of the camera in full view, plants Will Ospreay on the back of his head and like the crook of his neck and shoulders, and like that's Like that would like kill a normal person, but just because Will Ospreay has the ability.
Ospreay also does that to Takeshita at one point, where he drops him on the back of his
Tiger Driver.
People are insane.
And they're like throwing like full like it literally looked like just like full like Taz would call them potatoes at each other, just like full like shoot fists like across the ring at each other, and they're not like stopping each other at all. It is crazy.
There's one moment that I think in particular stood out to me, which is I'm a big fan of a lariat. I'm a big fan of a running lariat.
Oh yeah.
Takeshita winds up, does a lariat that full rotation sends Will Ospreay just into the air in a full circle.
Yeah.
And it is maybe the most perfect lariat I've seen executed in AEW television.
It's beautiful.
Because it is literally like cartoon moment of Will Ospreay hanging in the air as he just spins and then falls on his face. And it was so good. I just love seeing the style of wrestling that these two do. It legitimately feels like I'm watching fighting game characters.
It feels like an anime fight, actually. For once, finally, you can say that and it wouldn't sound
we got
weird.
Our wrestling anime fight has happened.
Yeah.
The great thing is I know they're going to keep happening because these two do it every time they're in a match with anyone, basically. So, yeah, I think this is a great match. I think the Don Callis family stuff here is... This is super interesting to me that they're playing up the idea of like Don Callis pitting the family members against each other to make them stronger. Because I want to see where this leads. I'm really curious where this is going to go. The thing I want to ask you guys is, Kenny's been out for a while on injury and recovery. He will probably continue to be out for a little bit longer, I would say.
A while, yeah.
If not up to like half a year, full year even. But where do you see Kenny fitting into this when he's back?
Probably tagging with Ospreay.
That would be crazy.
Good answer.
That would be I like that.
Bucks are... We'll get into the Bucks. We'll get into Hangman, but obviously they're both currently not faces, and it doesn't look like they're together. And Kenny just kind of works a lot better as a face, and I feel like Ospreay is going, because currently he's affiliated with a heel, but I don't think that's going to be happening for much longer, because I feel like what's pretty much is going to happen is he's going to try to get Kyle Fletcher out of there like as soon as possible, and
do their own faction. Instead of being Don Callis' little boys.
Yeah, I don't know if they will do the Undisputed Kingdom again, because obviously, or not the Undisputed, the United Empire, different United.
Yeah. I see where the brain went.
But I definitely feel like they're going to be splitting, and I feel like when Kenny does come back, I feel like it would make sense that'd be kind of cool to see both of them together.
Yeah.
My pipe dream is that when Kenny comes back, Takeshita has a belt, and Kenny loses a match against Takeshita for the belt, and that's his re-intro. That's my crazy booking pipe dream, but we'll see what happens.
Because in my opinion, I feel like Ospreay has to win the belt at
Wembley.
Absolutely, yeah. Ospreay has to have it. I think Takeshita ends up with like what I would want is like the TNT belt or something. Or the Continental, and then Kenny comes back and is like, "Oh, I'm going to take the easy belt off of Takeshita, right, as my reintroduction, and then just lose. I want him to just lose."
Well, because there's also the other factor we have to consider that most likely Okada is going to be joining the company too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. That's going to be a stacked roster of an already stacked roster.
That's what we were talking about before when the singles stuff is getting a little busy. We got a lot of crazy people showing up out of nowhere.
A lot of talent. All right, moving on to our pre-final match, the World Championship match.
Yeah,
because this is a special night. Samoa Joe defends against Swerve Strickland and Hangman Adam Page, with Adam Page's whole gimmick being that he doesn't really care about the belt here. He just wants to hurt Swerve, which I think is great. I think this has been a really strong run for both Swerve and Hangman going into this, with Samoa Joe is just like this brick wall of a champion that they're having to face.
Yeah, I feel like I still kind of do feel a little bit bad for them having to follow that match because anything that followed
Yeah,
Osprey
Yeah.
is going to
hard match to follow.
Because I mean, like even for me, like it's a little bit hard for me to kind of like
Maybe
pay
you should just
attention to
switch to
everything.
the 8-man or the 12, however many people the scramble match was in between.
Yeah, but they did do some cool stuff. Obviously, I'm always a big Joe guy, and like it pretty much just felt like them trying to take out Joe for as long as they can, and them just trying to beat each other up and doing it that way. And
Yeah.
it went for a bit. And then the big thing also here was it seemed like just even with that, Swerve kind of had the upper hand against both of them, and Hangman doing everything that he possibly can to prevent him from even trying to win. As we could tell, because Hangman starts just beating up referees.
Yeah, he throws out 2 referees. It was so funny.
Mm-hmm.
And given that this is only a 20-minute match, that's an impressive amount.
I know, yeah. Man was pissed.
Yeah.
I think it was about time that I mean it just feels natural. I mean, obviously because it's a wrestler, but Hangman turning into a heelish player just kind of makes sense with his character. Like, you know, if you're an anxious, paranoid guy, it's very easy to push you over the edge, right? And by this
Especially with
point,
the whole
he's
like
well
Western
off the
theme
cliff.
of like he took one step too
Exactly.
far. It works perfectly.
Yeah.
The rumor is
And
Hangman's
he,
taking a back foot for a little while after this.
yes, which makes sense.
Yeah, which we'll see how long that ends up being. But yeah, Hangman, I absolutely hope he continues when he comes back with the same gimmick of like being a more heel version of himself, because I think it's a great idea. Especially with the up and coming faces that AEW has, for them to have really strong heels to go against, and Hangman absolutely could be that. So
For sure.
Me and Brett did say though when we were talking last night, it did kind of feel like Swerve may have probably should have won here. It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's like Samoa Joe just won the title, and you kind of want to make it not seem like they're hot shotting it, but it definitely does also feel like Ospreay is going to be winning the title at Wembley, which only really gives them about 5 months here. And I don't think Samoa Joe is going to be holding it for that long. You know what I mean? So it just kind of feels weird. It kind of
because like if not Swerve, who would Joe drop this to? Right? Like
exactly. There has been a build
that's
up
the
to him in
question.
Australia.
Yeah.
And I wonder if we're gonna run it back, like if Swerve is going to get a one-on-one match with Joe.
I hope so.
At the next pay-per-view that they're having, it feels like they're going to have to.
Yeah, but the thing that gets me is this is the thing AEW has done a few times, and I don't love it whenever they do it, which is they have the pay-per-view match end in the sad result for a thing, and then they run the match back like a week or two later, and then have the person win. And it just, to me, that just cuts the momentum that it should have really short. So I hope that is not the tack that they're taking, that they're going to do Swerve wins it in the next couple of weeks on TV.
We got to get past the Wardlow match first.
Yeah, we got to get past the Wardlow match and a bunch of other stuff. Like, so I feel like this would have been the place to do it, especially with Hangman taking a back foot. I think this would have made sense, but it was fun either way. So
yeah, that's why I think it is in my opinion, they're going to be having the Wardlow match against Joe sometime on TV, and then that's in my opinion. I think they're going to be doing Swerve and Joe again at the pay-per-view in April.
Yeah,
and then have them win there.
Yeah,
because it's Swerve just has too much momentum to not capitalize on that now. Like, okay, screw not doing anything with Ricky Stark. Screw not giving like Takeshita, putting him in the C2 or whatever. Like that, this would be a huge waste to not give Swerve the championship after he's been in the picture for this long. and has like this many people behind him. That would be, at least for now, you could pin it on Hangman's evil actions, and it can work in that sort of way, right? So it still
Yeah.
it hasn't completely fallen apart, obviously, but like to deny this man the push just so that Samoa Joe can keep it until Will Ospreay inevitably wins it, that would really suck. So I really hope they don't do that, and I really hope he does get to hold it, even if it's just for a few months.
No, I agree. All right. Any other thoughts before we move on to the big boy?
Not really.
All right. Move on to Sting's last match, a tornado tag match with Darby Allin and Sting versus Matt and Nick Jackson.
Matthew and Nicholas.
Yeah, correct yourself. Come on.
I'm sorry. I'm too used to the Young Bucks and not whatever's going on here.
So okay. I need to gush because I think that what the Bucks are doing right now is probably the best thing that they've been doing in AEW.
No, I love it too.
So far. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's so funny because basically if for whatever reason you're just like listening to this to like have something in the background while you go to sleep or something and you have no idea what's going on, Matthew and Nicholas are like fully just doubling down into the fact that they're EVPs in real life and they're making it their characters. And Tony Khan gets to be the nice real life businessman because I really genuinely think that he's incapable of being an asshole, and to force him to act like that would probably be a really funny mistake. So they're gonna play the bad guys. They're gonna be, I mean, literally the Vince McMahon equivalents.
Yeah.
And they've done it at the perfect time because more material just keeps being made for them in real life, and they immediately capitalize on it. And their characters now are just like totally just like rich assholes. They just go around handing out fines to people and like sarcastically complimenting people for showing up to work on time. It's hilarious. It's amazing, and it's so consistent. And it
They
feels
also both have
weird
the perfect little mustaches.
Yeah,
point
the
out
perfect
the
little
perfect
mustaches. They wrestle in like dress clothes. It's like so tacky and stupid, and I love it. It feels like, and it's weird to say this, it feels like they've finally like hit their groove in their own company. Because for a while there, to me at least, it felt like they were like, okay, we have this we really want this tag part of our promotion to be great. So we got to put that over. We have to, put these other teams over as best as we can. And they've been spending a lot of time doing a lot of that. There was just some mysterious circumstances that they just couldn't show up on TV for a certain amount of time. Weird how that happened. And then their own show got split into a Saturday episode that they also weren't showing up on for some strange reason. Weird how that works. But now it feels like there's like nothing in the way of them just like doing whatever characters they want to do now, and that's great because they're really good at it.
It also just feels like they're like fully embracing those people who just despise them, and like that's
which they should.
Yeah, because like that's the thing, right? Too, and like why it works so well here is just because like they're beating up the old people, the people who are like the people like like they would never do like like it just makes sense. I like it's just perfect. They're just the perfect despicable people.
Yep.
Yeah, I also want to shout out the entrance video for Sting here was really good. I think this
amazing,
is the first time they've done like a long form video before a pay-per-view match, and it was really good. Sting like sitting in the theater and watching his career. His sons were here, which I didn't know existed. Until this moment.
Yeah, because that's again on Dynamite when they won the titles off of Dynamite. Ricky Starks and
Collision.
Big Bill. No, it was on Dynamite.
Oh, it was on Dynamite. Okay.
Yeah, when they won the titles off of them, the Hijo del Sting and Sting 2 were in the crowd, and they came into the ring. Well, they didn't come into the ring, but after they won the Sting and Darby won the match, the Bucks came out to beat them up, and then they came into the ring to like try to help out their dad, but they also got beat up. And even then, I was like thinking, like, man, they really look like Sting. And lo and behold, yeah, when you put them in his different gimmicks from when he was the Surfer Sting and when he was part of the Wolfpack, yeah, they really look like Sting.
They especially look like Sting. Crazy how that works.
It was great.
This is one of I think this is one of AEW's best matches, actually. Like this is perfect. Like this is like how it perfectly encapsulates how well they've used Sting the entire time. You know, just like in the like with working so well off of Darby and the especially the Stinger splash spots at the beginning with Sting's sons was awesome.
Yeah, those were good.
Yeah, it was
all three of his sons.
Yeah, it was just so cool. Like I don't know. It definitely did feel like at times too, like Matt and Nick told like Sting not to sell, like when he was like they're punching him or something, because like basically they're just dominating this first little bit, up until they get into the stage, and they Falcon Arrow Darby into some tables, and then also suplex Sting to some tables, and then from there, Darby it's pretty much Darby's part of the match. Trying to fend off both of them, and then he we should mention that there's glass.
Yes, there's.
So I do want to talk about the glass spots for a second.
Yeah,
you do have to.
There's been an outcry against the glass spots.
CM Punk is upset.
Yep.
Real glass.
So what happened is that they used both regular glass and sugar glass for this. Sting went into sugar glass. Darby went into glass. And I'm a little bit with the people that say I think that was a little bit dumb. Not because it's necessarily a bad idea, but I think the sheer way that Darby was cut, you could tell it was not a controlled thing. Like that could have gone a lot worse. Yeah, he was
bleeding a lot.
I think it was. It's not. I don't think it's. It was like because I feel like if it was actual because real glass doesn't break that way. I feel like
yeah, it was not like the bad types of glass that cut the huge shards that lacerate you, but it was one of the tempered types that shatters downwards. But still, like Darby that was an amount of laceration because they cut away for like 20 seconds while other stuff was going on, and then cut back to him, and his back was like covered in blood. Like
that's like.
To a level that like I don't think we've seen before, even in death matches in AEW. Like even in the really bloody Hangman death match that happened ages ago. And I got a little worried with that for a second, but it turned out to be fine. I don't think Darby can escalate from that. I think that's the limit, right?
I'm comfortable with that being the limit for Darby because while it is definitely impressive to see him do this sort of thing willingly and bounce back like he always does and does in this match. Yeah. It is like I don't want to see the man like just murder himself in the ring because that obviously would be horrible, and I don't want him to push himself to a point where that's like that much of a risk. And yeah, this was really risky, and maybe it's just because I've become I've gone to 2 Defy shows and now I'm desensitized. But like it was pretty sick. I'm
not going to disagree with that. Yeah.
The thing that frustrates me with the people that I have seen, the bots that I have seen complaining about it, that I'm not able to have informed conversations like this with, is because they're like, oh well, he wasn't gonna hit Nick anyway, so there was no point for this spot to even happen in the first place. And it's just like, guys, Tony Khan is dangling a fucking Minecraft golden apple in front of you right now, and you dare slap it away? Are you stupid? He just gave you like the coolest spot of the match, and you're just gonna like find reasons to say that it's dumb. Like, come on, people are so hard to please, and it doesn't make any sense. Like I don't know. It didn't even sound like people were too worried about Darby. They were just like, this is nonsensical, and I don't know.
Yeah, that's a dumb argument.
Yeah. The reason we're even able to talk about this is because he like just walked away fine afterward.
He only had 12 stitches.
That's legitimately impressive.
Yeah,
considering how bad it was. There's because you mentioned that first shot, right, where they cut back and there's just like a phobia activating amount of holes in his back, just all gushing blood. There's that, and that is like scary. But then like he's out of the ring for like 5 minutes or something like that. Planned because they have to show Sting is alone now, and he's getting the crap beaten out of him finally. But like Darby goes back up to do a coffin drop from the top rope of the corner post, and there's just like on the left side of his back, it looks like an exit wound from like he was shot or something. It is just so much like concentrated like blood in one spot. It was crazy. I cannot see another wrestler on the roster doing that. Probably for the best because I don't
probably
think
with
most
good
of them would
reason.
be able to walk away. But him doing that, and then Sting afterward being put through glass. Obviously, if Sting's was sugar glass, didn't matter while you were watching it because Darby just like killed himself by throwing himself off a ladder like that, and now to see the same thing happen to Sting, oh my god, that's so scary. They had us. They totally had us. This cinematic masterpiece.
Yeah, I got real worried for a second that they were gonna actually end Sting's career on losing, and I was like, for a moment, I was legitimately worried. And I think that's a good spot to be in for this type of match. And of course, Sting ends up winning and basically single-handedly destroying the Bucks in some of the best no-sells that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this was a really solid match out. Any other standout spots here we want to mention?
I loved his no-selling.
Yeah.
Yeah, just in general.
Ric Flair showed up for a little.
Ric Flair was there, and he took a super kick to the face.
I'm legitimately surprised that a 75-year-old man took super kicks to the face. Say whatever you want about Ric Flair, but that was something.
Yeah. He played the part he had to for this whole feud, and it was funny. Just having him be around like a gremlin. In general, I feel like we're just used to things like this ending in a loss for the guy who's retiring, because that's just how the other guy might treat the legends in that roster, whatever, when they're having their last match, and it's a tag title, it's only one of the guys that's retiring, what do we do? And we can't just give him that. That'd be weird. So we'll just have him go out on a loss, and it'll be bittersweet, but something will happen. It'll be fine. The people will like it. But to actually have him win, and the tag titles are just vacated now. So that's where Mox and Claudio are heading, I assume. It seems pretty likely. To have Sting actually go out on a win, and with Darby, which as you mentioned last night when we were talking about it, Ryan, they've never had like basically any doubt between them in their like partnership in AEW. Is it's just perfect. It turned out literally perfect, and Sting said so too. So it doesn't really matter what we think, as long as Sting thinks that his last match went as well as it possibly could have. What more can you say than that? He seemed really happy in the media scrum, and for a guy that's had as long of a career as that, it's good to see it go out on a high note and not fizzle or end weirdly.
Yeah, I think Sting has made a really good decision to have his retirement match at a point where he is still wrestling really well.
Yeah.
Because I think that has historically been a problem, is that a lot of big wrestlers who do retirement matches, like Ric Flair, do them too late and at the point where they just can't keep up. And obviously, Sting is older than most of them were, I think, when they did the retirement matches, and is still moves incredibly well. It just looks convincing in a way that I think very few other wrestlers do.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad he went out on a high note, and I think it's been confirmed that he's not gone from AEW. He's just not going to be in ring anymore, which I think is a great way to take it. I would love to see if he sticks around as a manager. If not, I mean, Darby, I think, has been elevated in a way that only someone like Sting could have done. So, yeah, I'm excited to see where Darby goes after this, because I think he's had a fantastic tag run with Sting, but now that's not the case anymore. So,
yeah.
Are we going to see Darby back in the singles picture after he gets all of his stitches healed?
And after he comes back down from Mount Everest. Don't forget, he's still got to do that.
He's still got to go climb Mount Everest after getting 12 stitches.
He is having a match against Jay White at Big Business.
True, yeah.
I'm curious to see how that goes, if they're going to have a win or a loss for Darby off of the lead of this. All right. Any other thoughts about Sting's last match before we move on to overall show thoughts?
All right. Not really, yeah.
So AEW love to say the best pay-per-view of 2024, despite it only being March. What did everyone think?
It was really good.
I honestly think it's probably a top 3 AEW pay-per-view for me.
Really?
Yeah.
I can see
I don't know if it's that high for me, but I do think this is one of the better ones they've had in the last year. If not the best. So
yeah.
I think this was just a really good, solid roundup. We had one mediocre match, and then a lot of good matches to really good matches, to perfect matches. So I think there was a lot of good here. Revolution tends to always be pretty solid. I don't think we've had a bad Revolution in a long time. So
yeah, I feel like my brain has been Pavloved into seeing that same shade of like green that they always use, and just being like, oh yeah, this it's time for the good one, because I can't think of any specifics right now, because I'm still in the honeymoon phase of this year's being one day after it happened, but I do genuinely feel like they are always pretty damn good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's the Revolution thoughts, I think. So unless anyone has last minute things they want to add, we're done for the episode. We've talked about Revolution. We all really liked it. We're going to see where they go next for Big Business and whatever else is going to go on in the near future.
Yeah. It like jump scared me. It was like just enough space.
You know it's going to happen. It always happens at the end.
I know, but there's just enough space from you talking to when it actually happened. That
because I give it like a second to breathe, because I don't like to have it play if someone's going to do a tangent. But otherwise, it can just happen.